such a friendly gesture now. Just keep me out of the freezer and don't give me a cold shoulder, 'cause I am just a fragile can. And you could crush me, crush me, crush me with your hand. So just tap me with your finger and I'll understand. So just tap me with your finger, I won't overflow again. I'm not who you think I am. Whoa. They call me soda pop can man. Whoa. 'Cause I don't do well with pressure. It's such a friendly gesture now. Just get me out of the freezer and don't give me a cold shoulder, 'cause I am just a fragile man. I'm a castle made of sand. Here comes the tide again to wash me out to sea again. I'm not who you think I am. Whoa. They call me soda pop can man. Whoa. 'Cause I don't do well with pressure. Such a friendly gesture now. Just keep me out of the freezer and don't give me the cold shoulder, 'cause I am just a fragile can. Whoa. You could crush me, crush me, crush me with your hand. So just tap me with your finger and I'll understand.
The link is pinned. All views welcome. I opened the chat for whoever wants to join. Hey, Eric, come on in here, buddy. Get in here right now. Nobody joins anymore. Anyway, you talk about whatever you want. A lot of stuff has happened over the weekend and Thanksgiving. And so you are welcome to join my chat. The link is pinned. Let's see. All views. I have a broken issue in my dental. I have a dental issue, so forgive my problem with my voice. Let's see. Still no babies? I'll work on that very soon. My wife is in the shower right now. Nick, good to see you, man. Nick just had Jane Wesley, the second baby. Oh, is this link not pinned? Hold on. Yeah, God bless you, Nick. Yeah, it's pinned. It's pinned at the top of the comment section to join. I love that he named his daughter Jane Wesley. I love John Wesley. Dude is on fire. Let me tell you a story. Some Calvinists asked each other one day, will we see John Wesley in heaven? And the reply was, no. Because John Wesley will be so close to the throne of God that we'll get a glimpse of him. He was such a righteous man. I like that quote. John Wesley, I don't agree with him on everything, obviously, but I think he had his soteriology right and the gospel right. And so we love John Wesley around here. Yeah, that's right. God makes his people holy in this life, right? And what does that look like? That's what we could talk about. Let me put the link in there one more time, but it is pinned. There you go. If you wish to join. Yeah, I'll just talk until someone joins. I went on JPN Cut invited me. I think he was underhanded. He won't talk to me offline for more than 2 comments because I guess I'm not worthy. But he'll invite me to come on a panel that's the topic is is justification include faithfulness? And I would take Wesley's approach. I would say, no, justification is not faithfulness. That would be sanctification. And if you don't remain in God's in belief and sanctification, you're at risk of losing your salvation. But I would include faithfulness as obeying God's commandments, which includes the Sabbath. And apparently he feels like, even though he's a Wesleyan derivative in his theology and he doesn't understand that, he took the side of William Albrecht, who's a Catholic here. And I think that's problematic if you're not Catholic to come against someone who's a Sabbath keeper. Does faithfulness include obeying God's commandments? And we just think there's 10 of them in a certain sense, right? Okay. Well, do you know Catholics believe your faithfulness requires the 10 commandments? They just define them differently. You really think you agree more with Catholics? I believe in justification by faith, righteousness by faith. I don't think you're saved by keeping the commandments. So, I mean, whatever. What's up, dude?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Haven't been on in a while, so.
What's up? What's going on with you?
Just closed out a good Sabbath and just hanging out, waiting for my girlfriend to come over.
Same one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, thank goodness.
What have you been doing for work?
Just working for this company that is doing some nuclear work.
Oh, really?
Hopefully, yeah, we're hopefully going to start our own power reactor division. So,
cool.
Yep. So,
nice. So yeah, I went on this Catholic panel, and like the Catholic was telling me that we're like. Then he talked to another Adventist. He was just like, "Oh yeah, we're not under the law." And I was like, "This dude is Googling arguments against the Sabbath, and he's defying his own Catholic theology." And then I read his own catechism to him. People are crazy, man. It's like, do you know the Catholics think you have to keep the 10 Commandments? They just define the commandments differently than the way the Bible does and the way Adventists do. And he was like sort of hemming and hawing about that, like he disagrees. It's like, dude, I know you don't keep the Sabbath, but your church teaches the Decalogue is binding. And so does all historic Christian creeds and catechisms and statements of faith. And people are just like, yes, no, yeah, I'm not really sure. I was like, dude, you guys got to read church history. You guys are totally... is what you're demonstrating is that you know, well, is what I would say is like, you're in a bind. And so now like the thing is like, oh, well, we're not going to say the 10 Commandments define sin anymore, even though our statements of faith say it. And a lot of anti-Adventists claim they affirm like the Augsburg Confession or the London Baptist Confession. And that's like, have you guys read it? Well, I don't affirm everything in it. Well, guess what? It stands or falls as a whole.
yeah.
Look up the moral law in your own confession. You don't even have a confession. You are inconsistent because your view doesn't make sense in light of what Adventists say. And so you're not being honest. An honest person would say, Adventists are just being consistent. I disagree, blah, blah, blah. But, they're not heretics for saying, well, it's pathetic. And I'm just going to be
Well,
honest. I took off my
it's
kit gloves. It turned a lot of people off. I don't care. You people are dishonest, and I'm sick of it. I'm done with it.
well, it's like finding a kid who's, got a marker and they're writing on the wall or they're writing on their face, and they they this is just me making art. I'm doing my thing as a kid, but you say, well, look, this is where we do our art is on a piece of paper, not on the wall or on our face. But the kid doesn't understand because it makes marks. I mean, it makes sense to put it on my face or on the wall because it still works, but it's not the right way of doing it. It makes a mess of everything, when in reality there are rules to physical law, there's rules to nature, there's rules to what God has put in place. But yet, just because something can be done a different way doesn't mean that it's right, and just because everybody else is doing it a different way doesn't mean that it's right either. It's not what God said. And you challenge someone's worldview, someone's belief system that they believe based on a tradition or based on what a church says instead of the Bible, and it's challenging their belief system. And so they're going to fight it tooth and nail if they don't have a willingness to look at what Paul's actually saying. You have to be open to God molding and purifying your heart and your mind and your body and remaking you back into the image he wanted you to be in. You have to be open to do that. You have to be open to what God's word says as a whole, not as what you want to take individually because it's what makes you feel good that you're doing the right thing in that one instance. So,
Oh, here's Shannon. Hey, Shannon. Nice to see you. I saw you in the chat at the Advent Defense League earlier. It's good to have you.
Hey, Jamie.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Hello. I didn't catch the other guy's name.
I'm Eric.
Hi, Eric. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Any thoughts, Shannon, before I play a little clip of some things that people have said in church history, just for fun?
I just caught that stream with William afterwards. I wasn't there live because I wasn't aware of it. I saw it on James Bowen's page, and then I was just shocked at William's character. I've never seen anybody react like that before. I thought our normal critics were bad. But this guy is just off the charts, and it's almost like he revels in that.
Yeah,
And
indeed.
that's like his whole shtick is being arrogant.
Yeah.
And he knows it almost. So it was kind of shocking for me to see that.
Yeah, some of the higher end Protestant theologians that are Adventist online don't engage him at all because of his he's not a scholar in any sense. He's very much about rhetoric, and it's really reflected if you watch the kind of comments his audience makes.
I didn't even go in his chat. I said no way. There's no way I'm even going in there. I won't put myself through that. I knew better than to even enter the chat because there's no way to even engage with that kind of, because they'll never agree with you. But I didn't even know you were on there, Jamie, because James put it on his Facebook page, and so I just found James's part and I watched his, and then I found out you were on there, and then you said you were in the beginning of it, so I watched your part, and I thought you guys both did really well.
Yeah, he didn't really understand my point. 'Cause
No, and I
just keep
thought you
saying,
explained. I thought you explained it really well. I was just surprised that nobody understood what you were saying.
yeah, it was crazy. So no EJ 110. He was on there too. I was lucky because I was invited on by JP. Unfortunately, I didn't know he was on there to. He brought all those people together to argue against Adventists, but he didn't make that clear when he asked me and people from the ADL to join. And so I let him have it a little bit. I like JP, but I just told him exactly how I felt about it. The way he put that together. I'll leave it at that. And so, let me play a clip here, just of what people have said historically. That's largely changed since Adventists became a denomination. The way people respond or how the people think about this. But let me just show some quotes that people may not be aware of.
That the Protestants who accept the Bible as the only rule of faith and religion should by all means go back to the observance of the Sabbath. The fact that they do not, but on the contrary observe the Sunday, stultifies them in the eyes of every thinking man. 2. We Catholics do not accept the Bible as the only rule of faith. Besides the Bible, we have the living church, the authority of the church as a rule to guide us. We say this church, instituted by Christ to teach and guide man through life, has the right to change the ceremonial laws of the Old Testament, and hence we accept her change of the Sabbath to Sunday. We frankly say, yes, the church made this change, made this law, as she made many other laws, for instance, the Friday abstinence, the unmarried priesthood, the laws concerning mixed marriages, the regulation of Catholic marriages, and 1,000 other laws. It is always somewhat laughable to see the Protestant churches in pulpit and legislation demand the observance of Sunday, of which there is nothing in their Bible. T. Enright, in a lecture at Hartford, Kansas, presented a no doubt tempting and embarrassing challenge to the Protestant world. I have repeatedly offered $1,000 to anyone who can prove to me from the Bible alone that I am bound to keep Sunday holy. There is no such law in the Bible. It is a law of the Holy Catholic Church alone. The Bible says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The Catholic Church says, no. By my divine power, I abolish the Sabbath day and command you to keep holy the first day of the week. And lo, the entire civilized world bows down in a reverent obedience to the command of the Holy Catholic Church. Protestant confessions. So, what do Protestants have to say about the change of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday? Recall that up until recently, Sunday was observed as the Sabbath, not simply the day to have church. How do they support a Sunday Sabbath after having rejected the authority of the Catholic Church? Several vague passages out of the New Testament.
And let me just say, to make this clear, as people try to deny this is the historical case that the Catholics have claimed. The Council of Trent, they condemned the Protestants for departing from the church and her authority, and yet continuing to observe Sunday as their Sabbath. And this argument was put forth at the Council of Trent. Because you can bring up these quotes like this, and they'll say, "Well, that's not official Vatican doctrine." The Catholic Catechism says that saved people that are Christians are obliged to obey the Ten Commandments because they define sin. And they get it from Augustine, they get it from Aquinas, they get it from Irenaeus, they get it from all the church fathers, and all the historic creeds never denied this. Why? Because they read Matthew 5-7, and they believe that teaching was for humanity, where Jesus teaches, magnifies the law, makes it honorable, and he teaches about his interpretation of the law, and he quotes the Ten Commandments. This isn't negotiable. This isn't wishy-washy. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says you're obliged to obey the Ten Commandments. And if you don't, you're sinning. They just don't think the Sabbath is the fourth commandment anymore. They changed the order. But they do say if you don't keep Sunday, you are in sin, and you need to be absolved of that sin, or you are not going to be in the eternal estate. So let me play a few more quotes, and then we'll talk about it.
Have been used to support aspects of Sunday worship, and those are addressed thoroughly in some of our other videos. However, no scriptural evidence exists for an authoritative change to the fourth commandment. Let's look at what some of the major denominations say about this. Anglican Episcopal. Canon Robert William Eaton is recorded in the book The Ten Commandments as saying, "There is no word, no hint in the New Testament about abstaining from work on Sunday.
We knew that the shaving industry was sort of intentionally broken, it feels like.
Into the rest of Sunday, no divine law enters. The observance of Ash Wednesday or Lent stands exactly on the same footing as the observance of Sunday." Bishop Seymour in Why We Keep Sunday writes, "We have made the change from the seventh day to the first day, from Saturday to Sunday, on the authority of the one Holy Catholic Church." But what about Baptists? Dr. Edward T. Hiscox said in a paper read before a New York ministers' conference, "There was and is a commandment to keep holy the Sabbath day, but that Sabbath day was not Sunday. It will be said, however, and with some show of triumph, that the Sabbath was transferred from the seventh day to the first day of the week. Where can the record of such a transaction be found? Not in the New Testament. Absolutely not." To me, it seems unaccountable that Jesus, during 3 years' intercourse with his disciples, often conversing with them upon the Sabbath question, never alluded to any transference of the day. Also, that during 40 days of his resurrection life, no such a thing was intimated. Of course, I quite well know that Sunday did come into use in early Christian history, but what a pity it comes branded with the mark of paganism and christened with the name of the sun god, adopted and sanctioned by the papal apostasy and bequeathed as a sacred legacy to Protestantism. William Owen Carver in The Lord's Day in Our Day plainly states, "There was never any formal or authoritative change from the Jewish seventh-day Sabbath to the Christian first-day observance." To this, the Congregationalist Timothy Dwight agrees, stating in his Theology Explained and Defended, "The Christian Sabbath, Sunday, is not in the Scriptures and was not by the primitive church called the Sabbath." In the Lutheran study book, The Sunday Problem, the author gives us some further insight into the shift from faithful seventh-day Sabbath observance to the first day. We have seen how gradually the impression of the Jewish Sabbath faded from the minds of the Christian church, and how completely the newer thought underlying the observance of the first day took possession of the church. We have seen that the Christians of the first 3 centuries never confused one with the other, but for a time celebrated both. The Augsburg Confession of Faith, which was approved by Luther and written by Melanchthon, his friend and fellow reformer, says the following: "They," that is, the Roman Catholics, "refer to the Sabbath day as having been changed into the Lord's day, contrary to the Decalogue, as it seems. Neither is there any example whereof they make more than concerning the changing of the Sabbath day. Great, they say, is the power of the Church, since it has dispensed with one of the 10 Commandments." Dr. Augustus Neander tells us in The History of the Christian Religion and Church, "The festival of Sunday, like all other festivals, was always only a human ordinance, and it was far from the intentions of the apostles to establish a divine command in this respect, far from them and far from the early apostolic church to transfer the laws of the Sabbath to Sunday." The following 2 statements from Methodists, one being from their own founder, when taken in succession, should prove to anyone who values their teachings that the seventh.
This is the last one I'm going to play, but this is very significant to me because I love Wesley.
Seventh-day Sabbath has never been abolished or changed in any regard. John Wesley preached these words: "But the moral law contained in the 10 Commandments and enforced by the prophets, he, that is Christ, did not take away. It was not the design of his coming to revoke any part of this. This is a law which never can be broken. Every part of this law must remain in force upon all mankind and in all ages, as not depending either on time or place, or any other circumstances liable to change, but on the nature of God and the nature of man and their unchangeable relation to each other." Add to this the words of Harris Franklin Rawle in The Christian Advocate. "Take the matter of Sunday. There are indications in the New Testament as to how the church came to keep the first day of the week as its day of worship, but there is no passage telling Christians to keep that day or to transfer the Jewish Sabbath to that day.
I mean,
Theologians
why would it be called the Jewish Sabbath when it was established before the word Jewish was ever incorporated?
I don't really care that they call it the Jewish Sabbath, because in their context, the Jews did keep the Sabbath in the Old Covenant. But
But
yeah,
other people have too across the board.
right.
I mean,
That doesn't define it. But
Yeah.
I think they say Jewish Sabbath because a lot of people refer to Sunday as Sabbath. So they're defining it as Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown.
that
yeah,
Sabbath,
we could call it the seventh day Sabbath instead of the first day Sabbath.
yeah,
That would be better.
That Sabbath which the Jews keep that they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
So
was
it's not-
like
when in,
They're
it
not
was like
necessarily.
when Charlie Kirk said it. He kept saying the Jewish Sabbath, but he really just meant the Sabbath. But other people kept saying,
Yeah.
Sunday is Sabbath. So I think he was just differentiating between Saturday and Sunday.
well, I think it's really important to distinguish that Sabbath is not for the Jews alone. That Sabbath is for the created human existence, and for inside this world and outside in the universe. The Lord has established the Sabbath outside of time as well, and so it's really important that we learn to distinguish the difference between what is being changed and what is something that God has established as a permanent installation. And so, I mean, the beginning of the Bible, God established it, and the end of the Bible, it says to worship that God that established it. Revelation 14:7 says to worship the Creator and everything that was established basically in creation. Under that God. So the seventh day Sabbath is an installation of humanity, regardless of what racial background we have. And in a church that wants to change that goes on a slippery slope. And it even said in that one clip that we have the right to change this, but we also have the right to tell you which race you can marry. And they wanted to be racist in that statement alone, just along with the Sabbath changing. So they can do anything they want. They can burn you at the stake. They have the right as a church to do whatever they want. Then it's just going to be evil. And that's what Satan's original lie was, that you cannot trust God. Well, God is a God of complete trust, whereas Satan is untrustworthy, meaning always changing, always going to and fro, and never consistent and trustworthy. And so God is completely consistent and trustworthy. And so this is just the original lie Satan said in heaven, and that is, I have the right to do whatever I want, and God is not trustworthy.
Amen.
Yeah. Nice, Clay.
Oh,
You got your OE 800 there. Hey, welcome, Steve. Let me welcome the
Hey.
guests. Steve
Yeah.
is here. And
Hi.
Clay. I'll be right back, guys. Say whatever you want. I'll be right back.
Okay. So we're on the topic of the Sabbath right now, I see.
The Shabbat.
Yes. I'll just let you guys talk, because what I have to say is something that I'll probably need Jamie here for, because he'll remember what I'm talking about. We did a previous podcast about this topic. I'll just wait until he gets back.
I actually had a question for Jamie, and then he left.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Jamie,
You go ahead,
I
Shannon.
actually have a question for you about that podcast that you guys were on. Was that kind of like a setup?
A little bit.
That's what I thought. I was just wondering.
Are you talking about Gangster Go Stream?
No. I went on William Albrecht's channel, Patristic Pillars,
Yeah.
because someone I know named JP, who's a large YouTuber, asked me to come on, and I think they were all teaming up against Adventists, but he made it sound like it was about faithfulness. And I told him, I was like, you should have that should have been, you should have told me that you wanted to have a conversation about, is the Sabbath included in faithfulness? That I would argue, yes, it is. and that's being consistent. You don't have to be consistent, but don't act like, you know, it was. I had to try to talk to him offline, and he doesn't want to talk, and I let him have it. And I've let him have it in the past before too, and I thought he was trying to build rapport with me, but he was just trying to use me. And I'll be posting more about that in the future. I'm not super offended or anything, but I'm going to let him have it.
So what? How do you guys even do the Sabbath? Do you leave your house at all, or what?
I do.
Because I know like a Jew would be like they wouldn't even go on the computer or watch TV, you know. So it's like totally different.
So I would just appeal to like Jesus correcting them when they were saying he was breaking the Sabbath, and he was like, it's lawful to do good on the Sabbath. And so often people will come at us and do the same thing the Pharisees did to Jesus. And I'm just going like, wow. Like, I don't follow the apostate Jewish version of the
So what is
Sabbath.
the Sabbath to you? Like just not working and then going to church as well?
Yeah.
And that's
And not doing commerce. Some Adventists would say like they'd try to prepare their food the night before. I don't really care about that, to be honest.
yeah.
I'm a little bit liberal about what it looks like to keep the Sabbath, but the idea that you, oh hey Edwin, hi.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So
Hey.
Jamie.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Welcome.
Thanks. Just if I can interject here. So we're on the Cool Kids for the Lord Jesus open panel. So right now it appears we're on the topic Sabbath. I'm just wondering, do you remember the podcast we did, Jamie, where we gave a study on the Lord's Day and the correct understanding of that? Do you remember that about a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Or so here? Yeah. Since it was brought up in the video about the Lord's Day, I remember, and I'm not going to say the person's name because I don't think they'll be appropriate, but just an individual that came on the podcast that we know said I gave the case for the Lord's Day being the Sabbath. And I know that it can be like, it's not unequivocal in the sense that it could be, referring to maybe the Lord's judgment or whatnot. But I gave the case nonetheless, the Sabbath, that it was not the first day. That was the one unequivocal point, that it was clearly not the first day or Sunday. But I remember one individual said they did not find the case very convincing, and I don't remember if they probably did give some scriptures on why they thought so, but a lot of it seemed to really lean on the early church father tradition, which I was a little surprised at. And well, maybe I shouldn't have been. But from what I've been understanding is in the really like some of the earliest church fathers, from what I was reading, apparently some people do think that Polycarp did keep the 7th-day Sabbath. So I don't know what anybody else has to say about that, but it does seem Ignatius. And I do agree, like later on, there definitely is a long tradition that was holding the first day, but it does appear that at least those big three guys like Ignatius and Polycarp were, it does, I could be wrong, but it does appear that they kept the 7th-day Sabbath.
Ignatius is the one that's, people will quote Ignatius the Magnesian to the Magnesians, his epistle to the Magnesians, but that is so many problems with it. I don't want to get into that. I think you're thinking of Irenaeus, maybe, because Irenaeus was the Polycarp's disciple.
Yeah, well, it also seems Polycarp, because Polycarp would even come before Irenaeus, and it seemed like he did keep this, and he's very early, right? Like he's quite close to the apostles. So I find it discouraging that I find it strange. Oh, what's that?
Polycarp was a disciple of John's disciple.
Yeah, that's what we understand, right? So it would kind of. So I don't think the claim to say that, like what this one individual was saying, they were going through all these different early church fathers, right? And I'm thinking, well, but the earlier than that, it does appear that they were keeping the 7th-day Sabbath. And more than that, not people that I can remember hands, but there was a lot in Asia Minor and stuff. There was the Sabbath being kept. But even by, if indeed, if that's true, by Polycarp himself and, people around that time, it would appear that if you want to say in a traditional sense, there was a sense of tradition that was holding the Sabbath, at least at the very earliest. So I don't find this whole idea, because I know people try to throw that and say, well, look at all these early church fathers and this tradition. I'd say, well, sure, but it does appear just before that they were keeping the Sabbath. So that's not a lot different than we could point the same thing with conditionalism and annihilationism. They'll say, oh, okay, well, you see Augustine or Tatian and Athenagoras and Tertullian, see, they taught it all the way through that. It's like, well, yeah, I know it's there, the everlasting torment in the early church, but even before that, you do see conditionalism and annihilationism. So that's not really much of an argument, in my opinion, because you can quote church fathers even before Augustine and even before Tatian that were clearly teaching conditionalism, such as Ignatius, such as Polycarp, such as Clement of Rome, the Epistle of Barnabas, Shepherd of Hermes, the Didache.
It's actually the case with the entire ante-Nicene fathers before the year 300 essentially were teaching that the lost, annihilationism, conditional mortality. And likewise, John's disciple Polycarp it's highly debated in scholarship, but he seems to have kept the Sabbath. We know John did, which is enough for me. Scripture's enough for me, but the reality is, oh, wait a minute. Even the earliest church fathers who knew the disciples were teaching things contrary to what the later councils overturned, which is exactly what our prophetic interpretation expected, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And it even seems possible that when you read a little bit in what we get out of Ignatius, for him being quite early, and Polycarp, it even, I don't know for sure, I could be wrong, but it does seem like they kind of hint that they did believe in some sense of physicalism, or that the dead sleep after, and the intermediate state was unconscious, not conscious. It just kind of, what I was reading, it kind of seems like they're pointing towards they did not believe in this conscious intermediate state substance dualism. But I could be wrong on that, but it just kind of seemed that way.
We'll do a stream on that soon, because I have thoughts on that. Let me just bring in Edwin and Jason. They just did their stream, which was absolutely fantastic.
It just got gooder.
Hark.
Nice to meet you guys. The Creator's Promise. That's an awesome name, man.
Yeah, Eric's my friend all the way back from high school. He's like my best friend. And Steve was my associate on my channel. We did a lot of streams about the nature of hell, and he was my associate doing those that show, you could say. So yeah, welcome guys. What are your thoughts on this? Any thoughts on
well, first of all, nice to meet you guys, Steve and Creator's Promise. I don't got your first name, but nice to meet you.
It's Eric.
So I'm just listening in. So far everything sounds pretty cool. I'm not the best with early church fathers. I have studied the early church fathers best as I can. I have a book here. Where is it? Here it is. This is a great. I've been studying this for a while here. Saint Chrysostom. Pretty cool. This is just
John Chrysostom.
Yeah, very great stuff. Good commentary. The homilies they're pretty fantastic, actually. But I'm not like a scholarly by no means in any of it. I just know a little bit of what I read. So I guess I can't comment too much on whether they were keeping the Sabbath. I do know that there's quotations from some historians. I think I read one time saying that the churches in Alexandria and Rome were keeping Sunday, but the rest were keeping Sabbath.
That was who was that? That's a really interesting quote that no one really ever talks about. It was because that was late. He was saying, he claims that everybody except for the churches at Rome and Alexandria were keeping the Jewish Sabbath, or the ancient Sabbath, let's say, but only the churches at Rome and Alexandria weren't. There's names on the tip of my tongue. It's
that was let me see if I find it here. For although almost all churches throughout the world would celebrate the sacred mysteries of the Sabbath of every week, yet Christians in Alexandria and Rome, on account of some ancient tradition, have ceased to do this.
That's
the quote, but it's not really giving the reference, though.
Yeah, really
that was probably in the early 300s.
Yeah, that was a historian. He was like he has the same name as like.
Oh, Socrates.
Yes.
Ecclesiastical history.
He's ecclesiasticus or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Man, Jason, I didn't catch the whole stream that you guys were doing, but I know Richard Firks was listening and then he left.
What was he saying? I didn't catch what he was saying.
I would just say, Richard, you need to listen up right here because this is like crystal clear.
He keeps talking about Pentecost being like that's his excuse for keeping Sunday.
Pentecost? Why? Because it happened on the first day of the week or something?
Yeah, and that that Jesus made the Jews stay until Sunday. I don't know. That was what he said today.
You know, these are the same critics that tell me description does not mean prescription. You ever heard that phrase? These are the same critics that tell me that. They tell me, oh, you can't say you got to keep the Sabbath because the apostles were doing it in Acts because description does not mean prescription. Then why are you pointing to something like that to prove Sunday keeping?
Right. It's a joke, man. It's cognitive dissonance.
I mean, Jesus had communion on Thursday. So?
Yeah. They broke bread every day. It's like
they broke bread every day, exactly.
This is what I tell people too is like the worst argument, even if you don't believe in the Sabbath, you should quit using the argument, show me one verse in the Bible where it says that Christians have to keep Sabbath. And even if you need to establish that the Sabbath is done away with. That's a really bad argument. It reminds me of the argument where Muslims say, show me in the Bible where it says, Jesus says, I am God, worship me. It's the exact same sort of argument. They are doing, and Christians laugh at that argument, as they should. Is what people don't seem to get is the new covenant was a prophecy to be established with the old covenant believers. And so Jesus came, established a new covenant with the old covenant people in Jerusalem as prophesied. And these verses that all these cults and stuff established this whole doctrine and theology on, Jesus only came to the lost sheep of Israel, as though that means Jesus didn't come to save the Gentiles, stuff like that. It's like, look, it's what those verses mean. Is Jesus is fulfilling the prophecy that he would establish the new covenant with the old covenant people in the proper time period, as the Bible foretells. He did that, and then you see his interactions with Gentiles here and there, and then culminating after the 70th week is fulfilled, and it goes and he calls Paul the apostle, who God sends to get the Gentiles, and the Great Commission is sent out to all the nations for God to call back humanity into covenant with him, which is the overarching story of Scripture. If you think about it in an overview, and
Christ himself speaking with the apostles says that me being here and doing what I'm doing is a fulfillment of the promise I made to Abraham in both of his sons. Abraham, Isaac being the head father of Israel eventually, and Ishmael being the Gentile nations around there. And so he says, I am fulfilling the lineage of Abraham. And that's both promises, both the Gentiles and the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Kayan, welcome. I'll just say to finish my thought too. It's like, look, if you look at the Bible from a bird's eye view, man falls, they keep disobeying God. He sends the flood. After the flood, they disobey him again. He separates them by force, and then he interjects by going into Abraham. And the issue there, he separates those nations and he calls them back. And there's a progression here where he makes a promise to Abraham that he's going to bless all nations. So this is God's way of saying how he's going to implement his plan amongst the rebellion. And he does that through Israel. And then ultimately he predicts that they'll disobey, but that he'd send the Messiah. And then the remnant of Israel during the first century did believe, and that the old covenant people who believed in their Messiah establishes the church. And Jesus gives them the Great Commission to call the back in the nations, and that they become part of the covenant promises so God can save humans, which was the original issue, which is very clearly articulated by the entire overview of the book of Romans. Paul makes this clear. The microcosm of Israel and their failure to follow God, he also extends out to all of humanity, which is a very good grasp of the entire narrative of the Bible, which we see Genesis into the New Testament period, right? With the story of the Tower of Babel, the flood, and God calling Abraham. What his plan was is a big picture. This isn't really, and then Paul makes that clear. Anyway, what do you got? Any thoughts, Jason?
No, like I'm learning. I'm here to learn. So
I see Cayenne is here. What's up, brother?
Oh, hi. I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot I was here. I just started reading a book. What's up with you guys? I'm doing pretty fine. What were you guys talking about? I just joined up. What are we talking about here?
Okay, yeah. Just whatever. We talk about whatever.
Oh, okay. What were you gonna say, Jason? What was your opinion? What were you gonna bring up?
no, I'm honestly here to learn from legends. But if you want to know what's on my mind, that guy William, man. That guy William is still on my mind, and I didn't like what he did to James.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Same.
Oh, yeah. William is a pretty If
Now
you've
I
seen
know
him
why
long
they-
enough, that's
they
just how
call
he
him
is
the
when he's
butcher.
online. Yeah, like he
That's
called
the-
him a
that-
butcher for
that
a
was
reason.
the-
The butcher.
That was the first time I'd ever been to that channel, and I was like, "Whoo!"
He's
like,
like that.
wait,
Don't worry. He's like that with everyone. Like everyone.
No, that was the first time I ever went there. I was like, "Wait, his
Yeah.
name is really the butcher?" And then I was like, "Oh, that's just his moniker." And I was like, "Oh no, he really is the butcher. Never mind."
That's
was-
just
it
his
was-
character. He's always like that, and it's super annoying. But it is what it is. I do feel for James because James a good dude, man, and just watching him get like thrashed around
He
like
just
that.
walked
Even when he
into
was
it.
in the right, in many cases, it was like, brother, what are we doing, man? And even the counter arguments were
I
so
called
bad,
James.
too.
I think he came in there because of me. I went and texted him because I was mad because I had to go at the beginning of that conversation, and I was invited with ADL because JP knows me. I let you saw Jason. I let JP have it a little bit.
I noticed. I noticed. Did he talk to you after that, or that was just the last?
I'm mad at him because I tried to just make a couple comments privately with him, and he's like, I don't want to talk about it with you. Let's talk about it on stream. And I'm like, that's why I said what I did in our group chat, because I was like, bro, if you can't build a little bit of rapport with me after calling me and my friends in, and you didn't say what you were really after, which was to bring a team of people that you disagree with to come against us, when you were making it seem like you just wanted us to come in there and talk about faithfulness, you should have called that stream. First of all, you didn't tell me that you were inviting us onto William Albrecht's channel, which is a totally different beast than say him inviting us onto his channel, which is what I was assuming. So he was obviously doing footwork for William Albrecht because William Albrecht draws in a lot of people. He has 400 or 500 people in his streams.
Which is so weird, by the way, because JP doesn't even like William that much. He doesn't even mess with him like that. It's so odd. Like he always talks like normally he would talk very negatively about him too. So I don't even get why he did that.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't know. That's weird.
No, but that's the thing too. Like JP isn't even like weird like that. Like normally JP and Jamie gets along pretty well. I normally get along well with JP too, and it's just like
I
don't understand
know
what was
any
the
of
point of
them.
that.
I only knew Jamie and James.
Well,
Yeah,
that's why I was the way I was with him, because
so weird.
He's pretty popular too. So those people. The thing on YouTube is I hang out with the Adventist channels, but I know a lot of people in the other channels. Like I've been doing it for a long time, listening to other people, and if you're not a big channel, they don't really care about you. But if you're a big channel, they'll kiss your butt. Let's just be honest.
That is true. That is
I
very
could
true.
raise my hand.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just since this is an open panel, it appears that the topics are probably open in that case. On the flip side, which would usually the Sabbath, I feel, and young Earth creationism would kind of go a little hand in hand, right? Just to make a point about young Earth creationism. Jamie, I don't know if you ever saw this video, but and again, I'm not bringing up his name. I think Inspiring Philosophy is a really great Christian man, and I think he does a lot of great videos. But I noticed he brought up something, because I know he's not a young Earth creationist, and I'm not saying that to bash him. I'm just referencing his channel merely because he made a point, which I don't agree with his position, of course, because I am a young Earth creationist and a Seventh-day Sabbatarian. But nonetheless, he made a point regarding, towards young Earth creationism. I don't really think the logic follows, because it wasn't directly in Genesis it was in Genesis, but not directly in Genesis 1 and 2, where usually the debate would really happen between old Earth creationists and young Earth creationists, right? But he brought up the point. I think this video might have been about 3 or 4 years ago, could have been longer ago, that he says, why do we take now this is him speaking, why do we take the ages of, like, Noah was 900 and something and he died, and not Abraham, but Enoch, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, these long ages. And he was trying to make it seem that, oh, well, these are more figurative. They're not really like living to 900 whatever years old. And he says one reason why, he said, is, hello there, got somebody talking in the background. The one reason is because when Abraham was confronted by the Lord, and he kind of laughed. He said, "What, you're going to say that an old man is going to have a baby?" He said, "Why was Abraham discouraged? Because it wasn't that long ago, or his forefathers were having babies at 500 years old, 400 years old. Even his father was 200, and he says, why is this the case?" And maybe so. Now, I don't agree with his conclusion. I just want to hear what you guys have to say in response to that. Why? What would your guys' response be to his question, saying, shouldn't that make us think that this could be figurative? How would you guys respond to that?
You guys understand the issue here?
I would just say, I don't understand fully, I guess, the question, but I think if I understand correctly, I guess I would say that what you're seeing in Genesis in terms of the ages of these individuals is a decline happening. So they're really, really old. They're in the 900s in the beginning, and when they start dying, and then they start dying in their 800s, 700s, 600, 500s. By the time you reach Abraham, I forgot how old was he? He was 90 or something like that, or
Rebecca's
99.
Yeah, 99. So by the time you reach him, it's not. I think it's not a fair comparison. I think comparing Abraham to someone like, I don't know, Melchizedek. Not Melchizedek. Sorry.
That's true.
All these individuals. Enosh and Cain. Right. It's not. I don't think it's a good comparison, because we're seeing a trajectory, or a decline rather, from really old to younger, dying younger and younger. So that would be, if I understand your question correctly, I don't see any justification for making their old ages figurative. The Bible doesn't give any indication that it's figurative. It speaks quite literally. When the Bible
still says that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that typically when the Bible is describing ages, I don't find anywhere in the Bible where it describes it as if in a figurative way, unless there is one. But even if there is one, I don't think that necessarily applies in the genealogy that we're reading in Genesis. I think it's just a literal description.
There is a direct problem with it being figurative in the fact that Shem, Noah's son, was still alive when Abraham was alive. If you look at the dates that they died and the ages that they died at, he would have had a direct link to pre-flood times through his greatest grandfather at the time, which was Shem.
Yeah.
So
for sure. I'm just gonna I'm just going to try to find the video, and then you guys will be able to hear it right just when I'll go find the video.
I know the
I'll
argument.
share
Is
it.
what I would,
Okay,
I
keep
would say
going, guys.
it's really simple. If everyone around you in your culture at the time isn't having children that old anymore, you're going to be in a position. No one is having kids at that age, even though one generation prior, you have people. Sure. Well, why would they laugh? Because no one contemporaneous with them is having children old anymore because it's declined. It's really not that difficult.
And
he's not really putting himself in the context of what that would look like in his day. There is a decline, and we can assume, it doesn't say per se, right? But obviously the fact that they did find it humorous just goes to show we see that decline, and that would suggest that the contemporary people at that time aren't having children that young. That's simple.
You don't even need to go that far too, because look at Abraham and his wife's age. Like, even at that time, they're having a child at a very old age. Women, especially women, they can't conceive children at the age that Sarah was today. That's not impossible.
Right. But his argument is that, well, just 1 or 2, 3 generations prior, they're having, according to Genesis 5, the patriarchs are having kids that way older than that. So why would they laugh? Therefore,
that's just not a good argument. It's just simply a decline. It shows a decline. The more you read the ages, you see the decline happening.
Yeah. It's actually there's actually a guy who plotted the chart. And it's a biological decay curve as we see today in biology.
Mm-hmm.
The way it decays is exactly the same kind of charted slope that you see with biological decay curves because of decline in deterioration, because it's a result of mutation. In the Bible timeline, when you put it on a chart, it makes the same curve that we measure today, resulting from genetic mutation, and so it's actually like, oh, they just happen to get the decline just right, so it follows what we see today scientifically on a decay chart in biology. The Bible just happened to make up dates that are symbolic that follow what we see in biology today. So it's like, no, sorry, bud.
I found the video, Jamie. Would you like me to share it so you guys? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'll play it real quick. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Just 1 minute. Share here. Okay. Share screen.
I interviewed Michael Jones a couple of years ago.
I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
are you guys able to see this?
No, we can't.
Jamie has to press the button to share it first.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he's showing it.
Oh, okay.
I see it. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth.
It's showing now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta press play.
Okay, I'll just...
It's 19 minutes long.
To make the Bible fit with an ancient Earth
there we go.
and the theory of evolution. But what many young Earth creationists don't realize is that there are several passages within the Bible itself that create problems for the young Earth theory. Meaning, if we took the plain reading of the text in many places, it would actually contradict the view that the Earth and the universe are only about 6,000 years old. These are the top 10 biblical passages that create problems for the young Earth theory. Number 10, Genesis 17:17. Genesis recounts the story of Abraham and Sarah, and had no children of their own. God appears to Abraham and says he will have a son in his old age. And then in Genesis 17 it reads, and said to himself, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear? So Abraham thinks it's biologically impossible for someone past the age of 100 to have a child. But this seems to contradict the ages of his ancestors, also known as the early who were supposed to live for hundreds of years and have children in their old ages, were supposed to be alive when God made this promise to Abraham in his 100th year. And his ancestor Eber supposedly outlived him. So shouldn't Abraham's reply to God have been that many people alive are having perfectly normal? More importantly is the fact that based on what Genesis 12 says, Abraham's own father Terah would have had to have fathered Abraham at his own age of 130. So shouldn't Abraham's reply to God have been that having a child past the age of 100 is perfectly normal? After all, his own father had him when he was 130.
Okay, I think that covers it. Any thoughts? Again, so my thought on because I watched this video when he brought it out a couple of years ago. My thought was, if nobody else is able to have the kids past that age at the time he's 100 years old, and no one has since then, that was my thought.
Hold up, I'm trying to understand something. He was saying that Eber was Abraham's father. Is that what, did I hear that correct?
Terah,
I think he was saying. I think he was saying in his lineage. I think so. Maybe it was his grandfather. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I'm
okay.
not totally sure.
No, he's saying
Yeah.
Abraham's father had him. It appears I gotta look up the verse, but 130.
At 130 years old.
So why would he laugh?
Yeah, 130, and then he
Why
lived
would
to
he laugh when
205.
God said he and his wife were going to have a baby?
Can you share my screen real quick? Hold up, let me press. All right, good. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram. He was 70 years old when he begot Abram. So that doesn't seem like it would be much of a stretch at all to say, how can I have a son when I'm 100? I don't know.
Did they do their math wrong? Maybe they did it backwards. I don't know.
I think something was wrong with the math, but his dad was 70 when he had him.
Yeah, what's go back a couple of verses and see what Terah's father says about him.
We have Nahor. How far back you want me to go?
Just right there. Let's see. Nahor was Terah's father. He lived 9 and 20 years. And we got Terah.
So yeah, he was 92 and he had Terah. And then he lived after he begot 119 years. So altogether, 119 plus 92 is like about 200. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram. Yeah.
I wonder where he's getting from. He seems to be using I know there's discrepancies between the certain versions here.
Let me see.
Yeah. I just want to say this. Go ahead.
And I'm seeing a decline here. Shem was 100 years old and begot Aphex, right? So he was 100 years old when he had him. Shem lived after he begot Aphex 500 years. So Shem is living 500 years.
After
right? 600 total. 600.
So that's 600 total. Aphex lived 530 years and begot Selah. Okay. Aphex lived after he begot Selah 403 years. So that's 600 plus 500 plus 400. That's like 900. Okay. Selah lived 30 years.
How old was he when he had him?
It says Aphex lived 530 years and begot Selah. So he was 530 when he had Salah. And then after he had Salah,
I think 5 and 30 is only 35 years old, isn't it?
You see, I am reading crazy right now. So 5 and 30, I'm thinking I'm adding hundreds to it. The man was only 35 years old. Okay, he was 30. Can I get to the New King James? Or you know what? I'm just gonna use the New King James. Forgive me, y'all.
Wait. Hold on, Jason. What's going on, bro?
Oh man, my brain is not working right now.
What's happening?
It's past my bedtime. So Aphex lived 35 years old and begot Salah, and after he begot Salah, Aphex lived 430 years. So
that says nothing about how old men can have babies. Anyways, the real issue here is women.
Yeah.
We can assume men can have children until they die.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very good point too. Like, it's irrelevant if Abraham says, "Oh, how can I have the child at this age?" He literally can still have children.
It doesn't matter how old his father was when he bore or how old he was. The
That's
issue
irrelevant.
is how old is his wife.
Yeah.
So none of this matters at all. It's about women's ability to have children. Men, we know today, men, until they die, if they can, they'll just be, not to be
And
cruel,
they had multiple wives back then.
Yeah, men can ejaculate or whatever until they die if they're able.
Well, and it says something. This says something a lot about Abraham's mindset too, because if he believed he was old at 100, even though he was still living with Shem, who was almost dead at 600, it says that I'm already old at 100. How can I have this child? So they knew that post-flood, their years were diminishing earlier.
Yeah,
by the end of the chapter, this guy is living 205 years. At the beginning of the chapter, they were living like 60.
It's kind of a nothing burger, his point.
Yeah.
In a sense of it, like, the only issue here is the age of the wife, but none of that's really listed in these genealogy. The age of the men, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it more thoroughly, I'm thinking, like, I don't think that has any bearing on it. The issue is, and again, you wouldn't base it on what people before you did necessarily. If you'd know,
not at that point,
if your wife is barren, you probably thought, well, my wife's been barren or unable to make kids because we've been having relations for years and years, and maybe, who knows? We don't know. There's not a lot of detail here. Like,
well, the idea is that Sarah and Abraham were very, very close married people. Okay, so he's not planning on going and having a kid with somebody else. And the very fact that she was probably barren, this is a test of faith. She was probably barren at that time. That's why he said, at our old age, how are we going to have a child?
Yeah, which is suggestive that they've known for a long period that she's not able to have children anymore. Doesn't matter.
Even though he did go and have a child with another woman.
Right. So,
right.
See, what do you think about that, Stephen? I would just say this has nothing to do with it. The question is, are they aware that she hasn't been able to have children for a long time, and so the idea that she'll have a child now because of God's promise was laughable because she just hasn't born children, because presumably they're knowing each other for who knows how long without having kids. The age thing is kind of a boon, or like
it's something I thought about for quite a while, and I could see right off the bat that there was something wrong with the conclusion that he was drawing on. I just kind of it took me, I thought about it a lot, I just kept thinking there's something wrong with the way he's. Now, again, I want to say, just in case, I highly doubt it, because Michael Jones is a very well respected and has a lot of, so I seriously doubt he'll ever see this stream. But by some chance, if somebody who's watching this kind of references, says, hey, Michael Jones, can you respond to this? I just want to say, Michael, if you ever do see this, please take it in the spirit that it's intended. This is by no means to pick fun at you or anything like that. It's mere brotherly disagreement is all. We're just responding to what you're saying. That's all. We don't have any ill intention. So just hopefully if he ever does see this, he'll take it in the spirit that it's intended. Just wanted to say that.
Just see Terry's comment.
All right. See you, Jason. Good to have you, man.
Bye, everyone. All right, take care, Jason. See you.
Speaking of relations, I need to go. No, I'm just kidding. Anybody want to bring anything up?
Yeah, there was a question in the comments about doing it in the 90s, and I was like, what do you mean by doing it? Oh, doing it.
I think they probably were doing it, and they've been doing it for a long, long time and haven't had any children, and that's why they laughed.
Yep.
She just isn't viable anymore, and it was something they just had accepted long ago, and kind of
Mhm.
laid aside God's promise, but from a lack of faith, and so they laughed. It really, I think it's just like I would. So I'm going to give my last word, and you guys can make any last word about anything you want to bring up. You can talk about your channel or anything you want to talk about, but I would just say, the thing I would ask old earthers, in all due respect, is just like, have you read the narrative of the Bible and how God defines the Sabbath day and why it is what it is and the things he does in response to them not obeying it? And if you're an old earther, how in the heck do you make sense of where the Sabbath came from? And I bring this up to people all the time, and they don't seem to get it. They just think I'm trying to tell them they have to keep the Sabbath. They're not listening to what I'm saying. Even if the Sabbath is done away with, I'm asking you, when you read have you read the narrative of the Bible? Why the Sabbath is what it is and how seriously God takes it and why he says it is what it is, why they're supposed to obey it. If the earth is old, it means the 7-day week came from the nations that existed that are supposedly older than Israel, and they just made it up and adopted it from Babylon. But if the Bible narrative is true, they didn't make it up and they got it from God, and it got distorted in the other cultures. It makes no sense. So I would just say you cannot make sense of the biblical narrative with an old earth perspective concerning what the Bible says about the Sabbath and how it fits into the narrative. Thanks. Let's do Shannon, say your last word, whatever you want to say. Kayan, and then Eric, and then I'll close it down. God bless you guys. Thanks for joining.
In the book Lessons on Faith, I think it's called, by E.J. Wagner and A.T. Jones, it says, God said it and it happened. So that reminds me of the young earth, old earth theory. So God said, let there be light. And there was light. So there was no duration of time. He said it and it happened, basically. And we have to have faith in that. So God bless. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Shannon.
God
Good to
bless.
see
Oh, I'm gonna just keep it simple. Moses literally said that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 literal days and rested on the seventh. I think that's pretty clear. I don't know why we have to make these pretty out of pocket presuppositions and try to insinuate that that the earth took millions of years to be created. I don't see that in scripture. Also, Abraham, even if you try to boil it down to those ages not being literal, Abraham lived to over 100 years old, and a lot more people lived to over 100 years old around that time period and before that. So how do you make sense of that? Also, it looks like it was very common for people to pass away around that age. How do you make sense of that? Abraham himself wasn't really commenting on his capabilities of having children, because he could literally have children with whatever women he wanted. Eric made the point pretty clearly that he literally had another kid with another woman. So I mean, like, it looks like it was just an individual problem with him and Sarah, not the fact that women around her age could not have children. It was just the fact that that Sarah could simply not conceive children. But at the end of the day, believe what you want to believe. You have the libertarian free will to do so. But at the end of the day, I'm right and you're wrong. Good. Christ bless you guys and have a good night.
Yes. Yes. Good stuff, man. God bless. Eric, last
Well,
word.
I think I can close this out with a young Earth Sabbath scenario here, where the 6 literal days of creation were in the Earth's literal days of creation, culminating in a Sabbath that the Lord rested on. He called everything good, and then handed over free will based on love to the earth. And in Job is distraught with his situation, and his friends say, look, Job, we know that there will be 6 times of trouble, and the 7th will be in paradise. And those are the 6,000 years of, in God's time, 1,000 years is a day. In God's time, he's remaking the plan of salvation in earth. And in the 7,000th year, we will be in heaven, resting with him and spending time with him before he brings the New Jerusalem down in the culmination of that 7,000th year. So this is creation, recreation, and redemption on earth as it's being remade. And so the Sabbath ties in very closely to the young earth creationism, and it also ties in very closely to what will happen in the everlasting. And that's what I have to say.